All right, everyone, you may have noticed I'm still in the United States. I am not actually in Europe. Let me tell an air travel nightmare story. I promised people that I would the other day. We start off today with a link in the description. I could have gotten a longer clip of people's reaction to what happened the third time around with regards to this nightmarish travel problem. But people were yelling and brandishing their fists to the point where I'm like, I figured that I would not want to be in a crowd of people that were that angry. Let me tell you what happened. I was going to transit to Amsterdam, of course. I was going to see my wife. And a series of unfortunate events transpired, and it was extremely unpleasant for me. And pretty much everything that could go wrong did go wrong in this particular instance. By the way, if you hear roaring outside, they're building their path out back, so there's a lot of work trucks and shit like that. So I was going to transit to Amsterdam on DL46. That was the plane, actually, the other day. And got on the plane. You know, if I fly from Burlington to JFK in New York City, everything's fine on the first flight, other than I was so tired because I hadn't slept the night before. That plays a role in why this sucked so much, that I sort of nodded off. And so I didn't get like my drink or snack or anything like that because I was asleep literally in my chair. So I get to JFK. First, let me tell you that JFK Airport is a gargantuan monstrosity, and if you haven't been through it, the layout doesn't really 100% make sense. It's sort of like they decided to just connect pieces of airport over the course of years, which is literally what they did, and never quite got around to making it more efficient because of the amount of travel that goes through it. It's kind of hard to retrofit or anything like that. So, I mean, I got through everything okay, get to the gate. I get on the plane. I'm thinking, everything's going to be fine. I haven't eaten or had anything to drink for an extended period of time, and I'm very tired. But I figure, once you're up in the air, you get your meal, you nod off for a few hours, and everything's fine. Well, we taxi around for a while, and then I realized that something was wrong around the time that I couldn't hear the engine doing the roaring thing, because normally they're testing the engine repeatedly and doing that and getting you to a location where you can actually take off. They didn't do that. They then turned the aircraft around, went halfway around the airport to a side location for maintenance. And then the pilot comes on and tells everyone over the intercom, well, we've got a problem. There's an indicator that's going off with regards to the engine. I've actually got a picture of kind of. If I had been 2 seats further forward, I could have gotten a really good picture of it. There was some sort of problem with what I think he called a pneumatic condenser or something along those lines. And I had looked it up last night. I'm still extremely tired now. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night either. It's pretty important for this to be working, but it wasn't. So the maintenance crew tries to fix it, and they think it's fixed. We sit there for about 2 hours. They bring water around to people, thankfully. And then they start taxiing again. Then I realized that there was another problem. Around the time I realized that they had gone around pretty much the whole fucking airport. And I thought to myself, this isn't going to be good. They taxi us into a gate. Intercom comes on and says, well, the problem is still showing up. It was perfectly fine until we were right on the runway, of course, and now there's a problem again. So they disembark us from the aircraft. So I have to take all my shit. They transfer our gate. Thankfully, it was only a couple of gates away, so that's not a problem. And they're trying to get it set up again. Well, now the pilot refused to take off because it was clear that there was something wrong with the aircraft. And the pilot shouldn't get shit for this. Technically, he made the right call. It's happened twice. It's probably going to happen again. I'm wasting my time and everyone else's by even bothering to go out to the runway. And so, fuck yourself, basically. People were livid at this point because people were missing their connections via Amsterdam. Like the person sitting next to me on the first flight, he just left actually because he had to get to Paris. And people were talking about all their vacations in these different countries. They were going through Schiphol Airport. It was my final destination, so I'm like bummed out about that. Then more problems arose. You see, the problem is that my phone, which at the start of the day was juiced up, had been used repeatedly because I was coordinating with other people and saying, we've got a problem, trying to update, what time I arrive and stuff. I was taking calls from my wife, etc., and others. And so my phone is now at 20%. And I'm like, okay, I can maybe transfer flights or something. By now I'm having panic attacks because I don't do well in unfamiliar locations under strenuous circumstances. If I'm here and something stressful happens, I'm perfectly fine. But you know what it's like when you're in some place where you don't know what the fuck you're doing and there's a problem. That problem is compounded. So anyway, I made the decision to not bother to take the next flight. I figure, okay, I'm going to go to the airport hotel, and I'm going to, number one, try to get a little sleep. But first, I'm going to make sure to rebook, make sure it's at a better time, preferably with a different aircraft, and then I'll fly out tomorrow. Well, I get to the hotel there. There's only one at JFK Airport. And I'm like, I'd like to book a room. No, we don't have any rooms for the next 2 days. We're booked solid. Oh, wonderful. So then I had to attempt to contact, again with like now less than 20% on my phone, I had to try to contact different people to try to figure out what the fuck I was going to do. Because I could go back in, hatch in, and presumptively book another flight, but at this point I'm basically passing out due to tiredness. And so I'm sitting in the lobby, which, by the way, I will say JFK's airport hotel is fucking spectacular. I don't know what the rooms are like, but the decor inside of there and the sound quality is extreme. They've got this enormous, like, cathedral ceiling, and they're playing, like, old 50s and 60s standards, and they've got, like, all sorts of old decor and stuff like that. They've sort of made it look like it was out of 1955 or something. And they're playing Roy Orbison and all that shit. And it sounded amazing. I suppose the fact that I was completely exhausted made it sound better. I'm not sure. So I'm sitting there in the lobby trying to figure out what to do. I have a friend that lives fairly close to JFK Airport in New York City, in Brooklyn, actually. So I call her, but then her phone, I find out, yesterday, had actually stopped working, so there's no possibility of that. I'm trying to call whoever I can, contact whoever I can to say, like, I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to do here. I mean, I can re-enter the airport and try to use airport Wi-Fi, but I've had problems with that before. Except at Fort Wayne. They're perfect. The Detroit airport is probably the best airport I've ever been in, which is hilarious to me. So at this point, I don't have enough juice in my phone to rely upon it to continue working long enough to figure anything out. Like even necessarily to, like, I could hail a taxi and go to a hotel, I suppose. Then I have to get back to the airport, go back through security, figure my shit out. And by then I'm completely exhausted to the point where I can't stand. And meanwhile having panic attacks. Like, I'm sweating like a stuck pig. I literally had to change my shirt because it was starting to drip because of the amount of stress-related sweat coming off of it. Again, I have travel anxiety under normal circumstances, when things go well. Until you're actually at altitude, something can go wrong. I'm not very good with those situations. There are plenty of good things that I'm really good at. Travel ain't one of them. I'm not very good at it. I've decided not to go through JFK again, by the way. I'm going to use Fort Wayne instead. Anyway, pretty much everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Several flights were bounced. I can't necessarily rely upon my shit in order to access a web page to go to delta.com and be able to choose my itinerary and stuff like that. Shit's all fucked up. The airport is laid out poorly. People are all up in arms. The airport hotel isn't even available, so if I do want to go off-site, I have to transit some distance. I mean, you can do that, but it's still just more stress. And then you have to get up in the morning and do the whole thing over again. One more thing went wrong, and it's actually something that worked out in my favor. And this is the most interesting part of the story, right? So originally, I get an email. When I came back here, I transited back here to Rutland, and I said, fuck it. Clearly this isn't going to work. I'm going to take a few more days just to get some rest and try to figure this shit out, and hopefully next time not go through JFK. Preferably with a different flight. I'm not using that plane again, so DL-46, you're cursed as far as I'm concerned. Maybe it's because it's 46. Which president is number 46? Yeah, maybe there's literally a curse on it. It's as non-functional as the current administration. I find out, I get the email, right, that my flight has been changed. I couldn't make that flight anyway because in order to transfer between terminals and get back through security, because I had gone out of security because I'm like, fuck this shit. Then I'm like, well, I can do this. I get word that there's this other flight, but I couldn't make it. I would have had to switch terminals. That takes a while. Get back through security, so I missed that flight. And I figured I couldn't get a refund because, of course, in the meantime, on my phone, because I'm a tech Luddite, I can't actually do anything on Delta.com on my phone. I can on my computer, and that's normally I'm a laptop dude. And call me inept if you want to in the comments. Fully taken. Yeah, absolutely. With phones, absolutely. And so I wouldn't be able to actually get a refund without a hassle from some Delta employee on the phone or something like that. Then I find out, because it's the same flight, it's the same plane, apparently they had the same issue and they bounced the flight to 5 o'clock. So when I got back, I was able to get my refund. That's good. So yeah, a little bit of an air travel nightmare there. I will be, of course, trying again, but I'm not going through JFK again. I will use Delta. I don't have a problem with them because I've flown dozens of times and I've never had anything close to this before. Back in the 2000s, I had one flight delay of 30 minutes and that was on a different airline. So Delta actually is pretty good. The flight attendants generally, they're friendly. The food options are, for an airline, decent. It's not that expensive and it's, that part is perfectly fine. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be more prepared this next time for such eventualities. And I'm not flying on DL-46, not without good reason. That's about all. Peace out.